Welcome to this explainer, where we completely unpack Cambridge Information Technology 9626. We're specifically zeroing in on syllabus section 2.1, which covers the heavy-hitting topic of supercomputer uses in weather forecasting, climate research, and quantum mechanics. Now, I want you to think of me as your personal football strategist for the next 20 minutes. But instead of analyzing a pitch and breaking down a defensive line, we are analyzing the absolute ultimate exam strategy to outplay the defense. And by defense, I mean those incredibly tricky, multi-layered question barriers that Cambridge throws your way to test your actual understanding. In today's masterclass, we are looking at formation, tactics, and execution. To set the stage, I want you to introduce you to two hypothetical students that we literally see all the time in exam scripts across syllabus code 0417, 0478, 2210, 9618, and especially 9626. First up, we have Alex. Now, Alex is incredibly smart, right? But Alex overloads their answers with raw computer science facts. They'll write a massive paragraph listing off teraflops, parallel processing nodes, and raw processor speeds, but they provide absolutely no analytical depth. Then, on the other end of the spectrum, we have Sam. Sam rushes through the paper, completely misses the specific command word requirements, and entirely forgets to format the final answer. If you were to look at their flawed answers side by side, they are absolutely covered in red pen marks from the examiner. Why? Because they lacked a cohesive strategy. They had the raw knowledge, but no game plan. Today we are going to fix that and turn those red marks into green check marks.
We are kicking things off with this provocative question because principal examiners consistently report that this is one of the most misunderstood and poorly executed areas in information technology. And we're going to fix that right now. When students open a paper and see a sprawling question about supercomputers tackling quantum mechanics or long-term climate research, sheer panic sets in. It feels like you need degrees in advanced physics and meteorology just to answer a standard IT question. But here's the ultimate secret: you absolutely don't. The cognitive overload happens because students try to memorize every possible real-world scenario instead of mastering the underlying technical methodology. The barrier isn't the complex science of the scenario. The barrier is failing to understand how to systematically process the given data. Students see quantum mechanics and freeze, forgetting that the question is actually just asking how parallel processing handles probability calculations. We are going to break down exactly what the examiners are looking for so you never freeze up again.
All right, let's dive into our roadmap for today's explainer. This is going to serve as your blueprint to transform dense syllabus requirements into top marks. We'll start by decoding the supercomputer challenge, establishing our core theoretical foundations, and building a strict procedural framework. After that, we'll tackle critical and comparative analysis, review the absolute top examiner warnings, and finally, construct your winning exam strategy.
Let's start with the first section to understand exactly what the examiners are testing when they ask you about supercomputers. Because honestly, you cannot beat the defense if you don't even know the rules of the game.
The Cambridge Assessment Framework prioritizes analytical depth over superficial breadth. It requires logical, structured reasoning instead of just rote memorization. This is exactly where our first student, Alex, goes completely wrong. Alex tries to win the game by simply demonstrating knowledge. But Cambridge assessment objectives target three distinct cognitive domains. Yes, you need knowledge, but you also absolutely need application and analysis. When a question asks how a supercomputer is utilized in climate research, you don't just state that a supercomputer is very fast and has a lot of memory. That is superficial breadth. You must analyze why the continuous, massive data streams of global temperature fluctuations require systematic processing that only parallel supercomputing clusters can provide. To do this, top students structure their answers using the PEEL framework: point, evidence, explanation, and link. Every technical fact you drop needs to be actively solving the problem presented. And hey, before we continue, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Ace the Exams, at acetheexams_IGCSE to excel in your Cambridge examinations. Click that subscribe button and hit the bell icon right now.
Moving right along, let's look at the specific benchmark Cambridge expects from top-performing candidates. This right here is the absolute foundation of our tactical formation.
To master fundamental principles like quantum mechanics or climate research applications, your knowledge must be adaptable and directly applied to whatever weird new scenario the exam throws at you. The syllabus is incredibly explicit about this. Top-performing students exhibit connected, conceptual understanding. Let's say you've spent weeks studying how supercomputers model atmospheric pressure for weather forecasting. You know it inside out. But suddenly the exam paper presents a completely unfamiliar context, maybe using supercomputers to predict oceanic current shifts for marine biology. If you rely on rote memorization, your brain hits a brick wall. But if you have conceptual understanding,
You instantly recognize that both scenarios require extracting huge volumes of variables from data tables, interpreting complex relationships, and processing them systematically using massive parallel clusters. You simply transfer the Peel framework over to the new topic. This is the core principle that outplays the unfamiliarity trap every single time.
Now let's move into Section 3 and see how this builds into what I call the method mark strategy, where you are awarded points for your systematic analysis and process. This is where we take all that theory and turn it into tangible execution on the page. We're going to transform how you write.
This brilliantly illustrates the standardized sequence you must follow for data interpretation, going from extracting details from texts and tables to drawing evidence-based conclusions. Think of this as your computer science success blueprint. This step-by-step methodology is exactly how you secure your method marks. In IT 9626, examiners don't just care about the final answer. They award significant marks for the process itself. Let's say you're given complex data about a quantum mechanics probabilistic calculation. First, identify the key elements in the prompt. Second, apply the relevant IT principles. Third, execute your analysis with clear, documented working. This is the evidence and explanation part of your Peel paragraph. Fourth, verify your results for reasonableness. And fifth, present it correctly. This standardized sequence guarantees that even if your final conclusion is slightly off base, you have already banked the majority of the marks for your logical, structured reasoning.
You absolutely must execute these strict presentation conventions precisely, because having the right theoretical knowledge of weather forecasting means literally nothing if your output is poorly formatted. This is the exact trap our second student, Sam, constantly falls into. Sam rushes the execution phase. The syllabus strictly mandates that presentation of information follows conventions, proper headings, correct IT terminology, appropriate formats, and clear annotation. If you extract incredible data about climate research models but fail to use correct terminology or annotate your findings clearly, you bleed easy marks. Stop scrolling. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Ace the Exams, at acetheexams_IGCSE to excel in your Cambridge examinations. We've helped thousands of students improve by 2 to 3 grade boundaries. Join them right now by subscribing to acetheexams_IGCSE and turn on all notifications so you never miss our weekly exam strategy sessions.
All right, let's get back to it. The crucial point when tackling problem solving is utilizing the deconstruct, solve, evaluate methodology. We are now officially entering the advanced tactics phase of our masterclass, where we start outplaying the toughest questions on the paper.
When executing a comparative analysis, examiners explicitly require you to identify both similarities and differences, using comparative connectives supported by evidence to determine relative importance. Let's do a quick interactive workshop right now to test this. Imagine a highly complex data table comparing supercomputer resource allocation between weather forecasting and quantum mechanics. I'm starting a 60-second timer in my head. Can you extract the core trend? Most students just list facts about both and call it a day. That's Alex's strategy. But a top-tier critical analysis requires comparative connectives. You need to use phrases like similarly, whereas, or in contrast. For instance, you would state, whereas weather forecasting requires continuous real-time processing of atmospheric data, quantum mechanics relies on probabilistic modeling of microscopic quantum states. However, both similarly require massive parallel processing clusters to handle the sheer volume of variables. You must support each comparison with direct evidence from the text or tables provided, and then draw a conclusion about their relative importance. This deconstruct, solve, evaluate pipeline is the absolute gold standard for hitting maximum marks.
Now let's pivot to the pain points by revealing the top 3 mistakes pulled directly from the principal examiner reports. Knowing exactly what not to do is just as important as knowing what to do. This is where we find the flaws.
Students constantly bleed easy marks by either neglecting their presentation checks or failing to contextualize their knowledge of supercomputers to the specific exam prompt. Look closely at mistakes 1 and 2. They are both entirely about formatting and presentation. It is honestly shocking how many brilliant students lose marks because they just didn't structure their answer correctly. Let's do a speed writing mental check right now. You have 30 seconds to conceptualize a perfect Peel paragraph. What's the biggest flaw we constantly see? Ignoring the command word's required format. If the command word says evaluate, you cannot just describe. You must check your presentation. Do you have clear working? Have you verified the results? It is a tragedy to lose points on a highly complex climate research question just because you rushed like Sam and forgot your headings and annotations.
This right here is the ultimate examiner alert. A classic grade-dropping mistake is providing a generic answer, so you must link your evidence back to the prompt every single time. Let's say the exam question is about a specific supercomputer modeling an incoming Category 5 hurricane. A generic answer says, supercomputers process data quickly. That scores a 0. A context-specific answer using the Peel framework says, the supercomputer processes continuous variables, such as wind speed, humidity, and barometric pressure in real time to specifically model the hurricane's trajectory and impact zones. Do you see the massive difference there? You must decode the specific context given in the paper. Whether the scenario is long-term climate research over a century or a microsecond quantum mechanics simulation, every single point of your evidence and explanation must link directly back to the scenario provided. Never, ever give a textbook definition when an applied contextual analysis is required.
Let's synthesize all of this theory, methodology, and examiner feedback into a final, actionable checklist for your next past paper. This is your ultimate playbook, your complete computer science answering system.
Treat every single question like a puzzle by following this chronological flow to secure your method marks from start to finish. Step 1. Deconstruct the question. Decode those command words immediately. Step 2. Extract relevant data from the texts and tables provided. Step 3. Select your analytical framework. Are you doing a comparative analysis requiring connectives or a sequential problem-solving method? Step 4. Execute with clear working and notation. Step 5. Present your findings using correct, context-specific IT terminology. If you follow this timeline, you guarantee top marks because you satisfy the 3 essential rules: strict command word decoding, systematic framework application, and utilizing your time effectively by relying on a structured matrix rather than just guessing what to write next.
Think about creating your own mnemonic to memorize this sequence perfectly. Something like DESEP for deconstruct, extract, select, execute, present. But beyond just passing an exam, consider why Cambridge demands this high level of rigor. As we push further into the era of advanced quantum computing and global climate modeling, the world doesn't just need people who can memorize facts, it needs architects who can process unimaginable scales of data systematically. Students who implement these computer science strategies see an average improvement of 2 grade boundaries, but only if they practice consistently with our weekly explainers. Here's your final reminder: subscribe to our YouTube channel Ace the Exams at acetheexams_IGCS to excel in your Cambridge examinations. Subscribe right now to @acetheexams_IGCS and click that bell. Don't let another exam pass you by. Drop a comment below with your target grade for computer science and the biggest challenge you're facing right now. Our team responds to every single comment. Like and share this explainer with a study partner. Ace the Exams. Your Cambridge success starts here.